Okay, so your warm-up looks like this. Okay, so this is, what's up? This is going to be something that you're going to do tonight. It's actually tonight, and then we're going to, as a warm-up tomorrow, quickly go through that and answer any questions before your quiz 13 tomorrow. This first question, this first little piece right here, this is really kind of just a seed of a concept I wanted to plant for future reference. So we'll discuss this in class tomorrow if we have time. The rest of this is all things you can do. For example, this is a study about traffic in an emergency room on the weekend versus during the weekdays and seeing if there's a difference. Okay, so the first part is this front page is pretty basic. It's even kind of definitional in nature. What are the subjects, explanatory variables, and so on. However, the back, which looks like this, is when you actually are going to design the experiment. And one of the things I'm going to do with you today is to make sure you understand that an experiment design is not as naked as this. This right here would basically be no credit if you had an experiment that you designed and it looked like that. There is much more details that you need to include. This doesn't have even any ending to it. So this is pretty much nothing. So we're going to do a couple today, one in particular in great detail so that you know how much information you need to include. Alright, so while I am coming around stamping you for your 13 homework part 2, then I want you to do this experimental design. So we're going to read it, we're going to talk about it. Before I actually forget, I did want to tell you that tomorrow when you do your quiz 13, there are 4 items you will turn in together with it. So I wanted to give you a heads up that these are the items that you turn in with your quiz so that you can locate those. This Chapter 13 Homework Part 1, I stamped for you on Monday. This Scrappy, I stamped for you on Wednesday. This one here, I'm going to stamp for you today. And then this is your warm-up that you are going to be doing tonight. And so those items are going to be turned in with your quiz tomorrow. Alright, so it kind of keeps all your chapter homework together with the assessment. Alright, so let's go back to this one problem I want you to design. Let's go through it. Let me answer any questions that you may be unsure of, and then I'll go around stamping you. You do not have a copy of this anywhere. It's just up here. I've not even given you a piece of paper to do this on. You'll have to do it just like on a piece of notebook paper or find some blank place somewhere. Okay, so here we go. I want you to pretend that you are a nutrition specialist at General Mills Corporation. I spelled that wrong. Corporation, okay? And you have been assigned a task to determine which one of 2 preservatives works best on the company's various bread products. Your manager randomly selected, what does that mean to you for generalization? I can generalize probably to the whole bread products line. Randomly selected 30 loaves of bread, and they are of various ingredients. For example, this is not the whole realm of the ingredients. I mean, they range from high wheat content, maybe whole grains, where you know those kinds of breads where you see the actual, it almost looks nutty, you can see the grains in it, to maybe, you know, the pure white kind, and then to the cinnamon ones where they've got the raisins in it and you see the swirl of cinnamon. Anyway, there's a range of types of ingredients in these bread products. Okay. Design an experiment to determine, design an experiment to determine the best preservative. Now, you sure to include a description of your randomization procedure. So before I let you go doing on this, this is not written anywhere. You're just going to do this on a piece of paper. What questions do you have about kind of some of just things that you might, as a teenager, not be, know? We're talking about preservation, talking about these different rib lobes. Any questions before I say design? Okay, so you asked, do we need to block? Okay. Well, let's discuss that. What would the purpose of blocking be? Separate things. Okay, so that's where it says maybe like wheats and whites. So maybe separate them into the like types of ingredients. You would only want to do that if you think that the ingredient, like if it's high sugar, maybe it'll preserve worse. It won't be preserved as well. If you think the ingredients are going to affect the preservation rates and make it unclear as to if it's one of the two types of preservatives, or is it the ingredients that's creating the longer preserved state? Okay, so that's going to confound the issue, and you want to control it, and you want to block it. And so I'm here to tell you that ingredients is an issue. When you have a higher sugar content rate, the mold likes to eat that, so then you might have it get, start decaying faster. So it's probably going to be something you want to control. All right. So there you go. So that is something I want you to control. So think about how you can do that. Okay. How about response variable? What would you be measuring? In your best guess, as an unknowledgeable nutritionist, what would you measure as a response? How quickly it molds. That's a good thought. Absolutely. How quickly, how long until the first signs of mold? Okay, maybe like, you could also say percent decay. You could say, by the end of 20 days, what's the percent mold on the thing? Whatever. So any of those kinds of things are what you are measuring when you are checking out which one of the two preservatives works the best. Now, I am not saying this is on this particular problem, but I want to tell you something. Anytime, I think I'm starting to catch on that anytime there are two treatments, you might want to just kind of give a quick thought to if a matched pair might be a good idea. Matched pair can happen with only two. So if somebody's telling you something about two, then matched pair is an option. So you might want to quickly throw a thought that way and see if that might be better at controlling some things. Otherwise, if you have 3 or 4 treatments, then you will not be matched pairing. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to throw you off the edge with that information. As I come around and stamp you, I want you to write out what details you think you need for this process. Okay, go. And how about your homework and your stamp sheet so I can stamp you? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so before I go into the details of your 30 loaf problem, let's talk about the chapter 13, designing an experiment sequence. Okay, so first was you have your subjects, your population, or your sample, and then you have 3 options: completely randomized, blocked, or matched pair, and let me tell you the difference. Okay, you ready? It's important that you understand in the depths of your soul the difference between these setups. Number 1, completely randomized means this: that you are going to put everything in one big bag, and you expect shaking it up and pulling them out and putting them in groups will disperse qualities evenly. Did you hear that? You expect that shaking the big bag is going to do its job and make nice, even groups. Because you know what? If I get too many redheads or too many contact wearers or too many people with the favorite color yellow in one group, that doesn't really matter. None of those affect the response of weight gain. Okay, whatever. So, if you don't know of anything that's going to affect weight gain, then you can just use completely randomized. That's the simplest, least expensive. Okay, but say there's something that's going to affect the response. Say that your height will have a bearing on average weight gain of some sort, or your gender, then you need to control it. So if there is something that will affect the outcome, then you control it, and you have to use this blocked design. Okay. Because see, then it's confounding the issue, and you can't tell if it's the food you're feeding them or if it's their height that's causing whatever. Okay. And this matched pair is just a type of blocked where you happen to have two very, very similar items, and then you do that. You can only have two treatment groups here. If 3 or more things, match pairs out. Okay, so that's your second thing that you decide in your experiment sequence. Next, you actually then do what with these groups? You randomly assign. Now see, selection is over here. Selection's over here. Here is when you randomly assign to what? What am I assigning them to? The treatment groups. Very good. I'm randomly assigning them to the treatment groups. Okay. So you do stuff there, you work on it, and then after you perform the experiment, what comes after all of that duty is done? Now before we're going to compare the results, we have to measure them. Okay? So we are going to measure the response variable. Right? Tell me what this vocabulary thing called response variable is. Response is like what's coming out, right? The change in the weight, the change in the length of preservation, the percent of, body temperature change. I don't know, whatever. Percent of high blood pressure change. Response variable is what comes out. By the way, you know what your treatment is called? That's the thing that is creating the response. So what's it called? The treatments are called your explanatory variables. All right. So this is kind of summarizing, putting all these things together because you have all these ideas floating around, and let's just kind of like re-summarize what's going on. And then you do your comparing. Okay. So now that we know the sequence that your design should take and follow, let's do this one with the loaves of bread. So, what did we start with? 30, randomly selected. Why is that important that I know it's randomly selected? Because that affects what I can generalize to. I can generalize to a factory of breads. Whatever. I'm going to have 30 randomly selected, okay? Now what am I going to do? Let me hear some of the ways that you decided to control the issue with ingredients. Okay, so let me hear. Anybody completely randomized and just wanted randomness to split everything evenly? I think you did. You just said split into, I don't know, you just said, okay? Okay. It's okay. You're in your pajamas. Okay? Now, okay, what else? Anybody block? Anybody block? Tell me how you blocked. Okay, Garrett, what was your choice of blocking? How many blocks did you have, and what did you block with?
You can block them in the match.
You can.
That's what we did, and we did buy similar ingredients from the other.
Perfect. Okay, that was what I thought of when I designed this problem was to, here's the deal. See this? I don't know what this means. There are various kinds of things. And honestly, I do not know which ingredients are the ones that confound the issue. Okay? I think it has to do with sugar and because the things like the sugar that eat up the sugar bacteria or whatever. So I thought that the best way would be to just pair the most similar loaves of bread together. And then you have matched pairs. So how many matched pairs am I going to have? 15 matched pairs. Okay, good. Someone in my first period came up with an idea that I thought, oh gosh, that's like brilliant. Anybody choose one loaf as its own pair?
Yeah,
and you open up the loaf and you split it, and then you have half of the loaf get one preservative and half of the loaf get the other preservative. Okay. Now, I actually didn't think about this, but that's probably not going to work. It depends on the preservative. If it's a spray-on preservative, then that'll work. But I don't think that preservatives are spray-on in a bread factory. Preservatives are generally what? They're baked into it. They're like the chemicals that they put in there when they bake it. So in that case, you can't cut the loaves in half, right? So in that case, I think you need 15 pairs of loaves. So let's do that. So here's how you show the design when you have a whole bunch of pairs. You're going to go like this. You're going to draw these lines, and I don't want to draw all 15 lines, so I'm just going to kind of do that. That shows that I'm continuing and I have a whole bunch. And then I'm going to write what I have here. How did I just pair them up? I did 15 matched pairs of loaves, of 2 loaves, which I guess that's redundant because a pair is 2, with most similar ingredients. Okay? So in essence, how many blocks do I have? 15. Each pair is its own block. Okay. Each pair is its own block. Now, I need to write blocked here. I blocked. And guess what? There are 2 things you have to tell the grader or the person that is looking at your experiment. You have to tell them, number 1, why you blocked. And you have to tell them why I blocked, which I think this is how I blocked. So I told them how I blocked here, but I have to tell them why, and it better be related to the response. So how is this ingredient situation? Why did I choose to block this way? Excellent, that's correct. So I write this, so write this down. I will block by ingredient because okay, so you don't want to block by like the color of the packaging, because the color of the packaging probably doesn't have anything to do with the preservation of the loaves of bread, right? So that would not be a choice of blocking. I am blocking by ingredients because ingredients may, cloud the preservation rate. Or are you comfortable with using that word confound? May confound the, preservation or whatever. In other words, in the end, I will not be able to tell if the effect is because of what? The preservative or the ingredients. So I'm going to control the ingredients, so in the end, I know that the only difference was the preservative. Okay, so again, you have to say why and relate it to the response. Okay, moving on. After we talk about blocking and stuff, okay, remember right up here, so see, that's what we just did. We talked about blocking and stuff. So now what do? Now let's randomly assign. And I do not want to have to write this out 15 times. So you know what I'm going to say? Within each block, because each pair is a block, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write it once. I'm going to take my little things here, and I'm going to put one loaf. I'm going to cook it with preservative A, and one loaf, I'm going to cook it with preservative B. How did I get into those groups? Okay, I randomly assigned them to those groups. And I didn't just say give one of them a 1 and one of them a 2, because maybe I put the sweeter looking ones in the preservative A group or whatever. So how are you going to make that sure that's random and unbiased? Okay, flip a coin. Okay, flip a coin for one loaf. Okay, heads equals preservative A, tails equals preservative B. So that says where that one goes. Don't leave the other one hanging. Where does it go? Other loaf goes in other group. I don't know if that's explanatory enough, but I'm saying one of them's going to go in A or B, and the other one that's left is going to go in whichever one it did pick. Okay. Do you see all this stuff that's written? Something that looks like this is not acceptable. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Alright, so let's finish this puppy up. We got time going on, and then what do we end up doing? We measure what? Yeah, which probably is like percent decay. However you do that, I don't know. I'm not the evaluator expert. I'm not a food expert person. I'm not excellent eater of food, but I'm not a measurer of decay. And then I will compare percent decay. Okay, that is a full written experiment. Yes. I don't think it's necessary, but that is a good point. You want to see if the preservatives are doing anything at all. You could have a third group. Okay, so that's something you could consider. Which actually might be something they would ask you like on another thing. Would there be a reason for a control group, and what would that be? Another question, is there any reason for blinding, and what would that be? What do you think? Anybody need anything need to be blinded? Anybody? Anything in this experiment? Well, technically, the person who's like evaluating the percent decay, maybe if he's putting a rating on it, maybe he shouldn't have any stake in the preservative or something. Maybe he shouldn't know which one had which. Okay? Or she, whatever. Alright, done with that. Any other questions? Okay. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news that something like this is not good. Okay, I actually want to kind of throw you the answers here real quick. You did not have to do the experiment at the bottom. I happened to, but you did not have to. Probably the only thing that people missed on this was they thought that size of dog was a factor. Size of dog is not a factor. Look at this. Size of dog is a block. A factor is something that gets assigned to the subject. Does size of dog get assigned to the subject? No, it's just that. So size is not a factor. There's only one factor. It's which diet the animal gets at 2 levels, low and standard. Okay. That's probably probably the biggest thing of confusion. It was block by size. You want to do percent weight loss. Oh wait, you know what? I don't think it's weight loss. They actually wanted to talk about maintenance, so we just want to see if there's any change. They weren't going for loss. They just wanted to maintain. So we're seeing how well they maintained, and so on. Okay, I'm running out of. I want to have enough time to do some of these things properly. Quite a few problems with this design. This is something. Oops, what's that thing to do? This is something I want you to keep considering. It matters which one is done first. Just like this down here. Look, on the cereal, in one group I have them do the maple cereal first, and the other group they do the celery first. You need to randomize who gets something first. Let me give you an example. When I was in high school, we had this fundraiser, and seniors got to go down to the gym. They had tables set up. It was a taste testing thing. So some company needed some subjects, so we got to do it. It was fun. And we got out of class, got to eat chips, cool. So they would have somebody sit across from you. You had a little bottle of water, and they would hand you, a little cup with a chip in it, and you'd eat it. And then you take your water, and then they give you the other one. Well, I guarantee you, when they did this experiment, some of the tables gave chip A to the person first, okay, and some of the tables gave chip B to the person first. And here's why. You're coming in from math class, and you're sitting there all, bored and dry mouth and everything. Well, when you take that first one, ooh, that's a big burst of flavor. So that one might be much more exciting to you than if you already had a chip, you took a sip of water, and now I'm going to taste this other one. That's not as much of a response of flavor because you kind of already have some of the other flavor in your mouth. So which one you take first could be affecting your decision. Things matter which comes first. It matters which running shoes they run with first. There's another one. Oh, over here. Look at this. I think I did an absolutely horrible job of this design. Let's tear it apart. You tell me what's wrong. All I did was take the 20 volunteers. I had one group use the premium gas and one group use the regular gas, which I guess is half. I don't even say. Okay, so I just totally did pitifully. Now, do you think this is called completely randomized? What I am doing is allowing random assignments to split all the qualities of the volunteers evenly. Do you think that is something that I should allow to lead to randomness? No, because I am measuring, miles per gallon. And tell me about things that affect miles per gallon. Size of car, age of you, gender of you, how far you go, tire, all these different things. There is way too many variables, so leaving that to randomization is not a good idea. Let's fix this. How about if we have one group do the premium gas for a month, and then what? And they switch, and they'll do the regular gas for a month. Therefore, all the drivers have done both things. This particular group did the premium gas first. Remember I said it matters a lot of times which one you get first. So this group gets the what? Regular one first. And they do it for a month. And then they switch and they do premium gas for a month. Okay? So then if this premium right here is like doing something special to the car, then or whatever. So it matters. We want to randomize it so that so half are getting it first. All right. Last thing I really want to say to you, other than this, if we have enough time, we'll talk about the parachute one, which was kind of silly. But oh my gosh, I don't know why I even. It's a good teaching tool. I did horribly again on this one. I don't know what I was thinking. This may have been my first year doing this when I did this key, but I mean, I was just absolutely horrible. I want you to read this with me. And I want you to tell me, let's discuss if you are able to replicate this and if you're able to understand like what you need to do in it. Here we go. This is the full moon problem, where the common belief that emergency rooms might be busier than usual. Okay, so they might be busier than blah, blah, blah. So we want to see if there's any merit to it being busier on full moon. So I said, okay, let's do a retrospective study. I said, let's just study the emergency room records over the past, 5 years, whatever. And compare with the moon phase. So in one hand, we're going to take all of the emergency room records, and then we're going to have the moon phase, and we're going to compare. We're going to pull randomly selected records. Okay, that's good. Randomly selected records is going to allow me to generalize. Okay. If you were somebody reading this, if you were the teacher and you read this, do you think that's a satisfactory? I'm telling you it's not, so tell me what's wrong with it. I'll tell you, I'll give you a hint. It has to do with this word. Okay, there. Okay. Compare what? That's the issue. Compare what? Now, Sarah specifically said take them from other places, and I just said do randomly selected ones. This is it. What am I comparing? Yes, I am comparing ER activity. The amount of people in the emergency room. You see, I didn't say that. You just assumed that in your head that I knew what I was talking about and that it was an ER activity. But you have to say, this is the response variable. I never ever stated what the response variable was. So I'm going to say, okay, on a full moon, there was this much activity. On a new moon, there was this much activity. Is there a significant difference? Okay, so you can't make any assumptions that I know that you're talking about ER activity. Tell me what you compare. All right. So hopefully you can start to be a more analytical writer in your descriptions of things. Here's the parachute problem real quick if you want to see it. It's kind of silly. The response variable is how much damage was done, whether you survived. I would probably use a crash dummy so you're not putting a person up there with a placebo parachute. How could you make it double blind? Who's the evaluator of the results? Who's the evaluator of the survival and such? A medical examiner, maybe? So, if the medical examiner has not been told if this blob on the floor had the placebo parachute or the real parachute, then it would be double blind. The person jumping out doesn't know if they got the real parachute or the placebo, so they're carrying a backpack and they don't know if it's going to actually come out or not. Okay? Anyway, we're not going to use small puppies. Okay? Small puppies. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to run through you guys. I think I kind of hit on the main parts. Right. So, in summary, do your warm-up tonight for the quiz tomorrow. And listen up. See this review that you got, the stapled page? That is due Monday. There's 4 short answers. This is the review for the test. Hey, you guys listening? Review for the test, due Monday, and then see here are some examples of multiple choice in this class. And guess what? The last one in this is number 15, and it is a full-blown experiment of which, tell me about this right here. Design a completely randomized. So they are telling you in first to not what? Correct. They're saying don't block. And then later they'll ask you if you think that you should block. Okay, but catch that word. All right.